There are certain outcomes, certain experiences you may encounter in life where you find yourself looking back and realizing there was simply nothing I could have done to avoid that. What up, folks? Once again, it is your boy Tim with probably one of the most gruesome videos I have ever brought to you. One of the most gruesome outcomes that a gig worker in the ride-sharing profession has ever faced. Nevertheless, this has happened to one of us, so I'm going to cautiously bring it to you drivers. Here's the video.
His wife that he was making one final delivery before heading home, but he never showed up. And that is because Randall Cook was brutally murdered last week in Pasco County, allegedly at the hands of Oscar Solis, a convicted felon with gang ties who is now back behind bars. Fox 13's Ariel Placencia is following this story live from the Pasco County Sheriff's Office. Ariel, how do detectives think this all happened?
Well, investigators say they found Randall Cook's wedding ring and car keys inside the suspect's home. So as Cook was attempting to deliver his food, the sheriff says the suspect pulled him inside and then later killed him.
Like I said, 1 minute at a time, not even 1 day, but 1 minute.
Brittany DeZoba and her family are devastated after her stepfather, Randall Cook, was killed while delivering food for Uber Eats.
This man murdered my stepdad, my mom's husband. For no reason. We don't know them. We don't know this guy.
Last Wednesday, the Pasco sheriff said Cook texted his wife he was making one last delivery, but he never came home. So she reported him missing, and detectives reached out to Uber Eats.
They were able to provide us some information and his last known GPS coordinates.
That's how detectives ended up at Oscar Solis' home on Moog Road in Holiday. Eventually, they talked to Solis' roommate, who shared video with them.
You can actually see the victim walking up to the house to deliver food, but the video cuts off at that point.
Investigators say they later learned that Solis carried several trash bags around the side of the house. And on Friday, they discovered a body at the home on Moog Road.
Unfortunately, what we found inside of some of those trash bags was human remains.
Solis is being held under no bond. This is video of him in court on Tuesday.
This person, you always said we're evil, but this is demonic.
Arrest affidavits show Solis was released from the Indiana State Prison System in January of this year. He was arrested for burglary and assault and moved to Florida after being released. However, he did not register with the county for being a convicted felon. The sheriff saying today that Solis has gang ties.
You're talking about a very violent individual that Indiana released and sent down to Florida.
Solis' father used to live at the house on Moog Road, the sheriff told us, but he moved out when his son came down to Florida. Last week, the suspect's father is the one who had ordered the Uber Eats food for Solis, food that was delivered by Cook.
And I'll tell you this, I kept asking, what's the connection?
The sheriff is hoping these two individuals might have some information, saying the pair was in the Moog Road house about an hour before the crime happened.
The suspect may be a gamer, so maybe that's why these other kids are over there.
If you recognize them, please call the Pasco Sheriff's Office. Meanwhile, the family just wants answers.
Just knowing she has to come home every day to her husband not there. They shared so many amazing memories together, but that's the only thing we can look up is just he wanted her to be happy. He doesn't want her to see her like this at all.
Now, motive is still a big question that needs to be answered. The sheriff only saying the two did not have a relationship. The suspect and victim did not know each other, and just calling this crime a gruesome one. Haley, Linda.
He was just a man out there doing his job like anybody else. This is all just so senseless.
A man out there just doing his job like anybody else. Ain't that the truth? That's what we all do. One of the goals or lessons I often promote on this channel is if you do not want to get eaten, try your damnest not to look like food. Meaning, avoid wearing expensive jewelry, having expensive upgrades on your vehicle, or producing a visual image that you are a target of value. Certainly try to avoid doing that. Not to suggest that that is what happened here, but according to authorities, they did indeed find the victim's wedding ring and car keys in the suspect's possession. So try your best not to look like food when you're doing this. Gonna assume the driver was not out doing food deliveries looking like he was auditioning for the A-Team. Even though they found a little bit of jewelry in the suspect's possession, I'm going to assume he wasn't out there blinging off like 2 Chainz or something. So just take that as a lesson. Don't look like food when you're doing this. Randall Cook is the victim. just an average, everyday looking guy falling really victim to something that even the law enforcement official, who has seen every damn thing under the sun, referred to this as being demonic and evil. So when the cops say something is demonic, you know you got some shit on your hands. But you see the stepdaughter of the victim. This is really sad. This is a really sad story. And what really makes it even worse is that the police admit on video someone in addition to the suspect was seen carrying trash bags. So the suspect obviously had some type of assistant. So there is another player in this. We don't know if that other individual participated in the killing or whatever the case may be, but they at the very least helped get rid of the evidence. And the killer himself, the alleged killer, Oscar Solis, has no incentive at all to cooperate with authorities. I mean, he's never going to get out. In a state like Florida, they may even attempt to execute him. But obviously, the police are suggesting he had gang ties. As you see, he has the number 13 right on his forehead. How does a defense attorney defend a client that literally has the gang affiliation tattooed right on their forehead? Even if you put the man in a suit, you can't hide all of those facial tattoos. I'm going to take his picture down, though. MS-13, they are like the Navy SEALs of gangbang, and they have a long-ass reach, so let's not create any drama that your host is not looking for. But nevertheless, this is a horrible outcome. And the reason I wanted to bring it to you is to ask a question. How many of you folks have had a customer try to get you to come inside of their residence? We'll talk about that towards the end, because this guy apparently was snatched and grabbed into the residence. But even if you're armed, even if you got your head on a swivel, this sounds like something that is, to some degree, completely unavoidable. You see in the video, the officer sounds quite angry that Indiana, after serving time in prison, Indiana let this guy out of their grasp. Thank God it wasn't Chicago, because the right-wing media is all over Chicago, liberals being soft on crime and things like that. You're not going to hear him say anything because this guy came from Indiana. But if this guy had did this after leaving Chicago, it would be all over the news. So it is what it is. But the idea that some customer just simply trying to make a delivery, some customer would take you in their home and chop you into pieces, shows exactly how much danger many folks in the gig economy unknowingly face. I've brought a lot of stories to you folks. Drivers getting beaten, drivers getting sexually assaulted, drivers losing their lives. But this is even worse than all of that, because they actually chopped the guy into pieces. Wow. I don't even know what else to say on something like this. But this type of outcome from a guy that has the visual images of the alleged killer, Oscar Solis, can lead to people saying things like this.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems. And they're bringing those problems with us.
Now, I personally do not submit to that type of mindset, that type of rhetoric, but there are many that do. Nevertheless, this is probably one of the most gruesome cases that many of us have ever heard of in regards to the outcome of somebody in the gig economy. Before I end the video, just wanted to ask, have any of you drivers, particularly in the food delivery business, but also us rideshare drivers, have you ever had a customer try to get you to enter their residence? Whether it is saying we can drink a beer together or hang out for a little bit, or even asking you to step inside so that they could provide you with a cash tip or something. Many of you folks in ride sharing also, if you help someone bring home some groceries or laundry, they may ask you, could you put that in the back room or something? So I want to ask you folks, have you ever had a customer try to get you to enter a private residence? In this case, it sounds like the assailant allegedly snatched the driver and dragged them into the residence, but obviously entering someone's residence puts you at a disadvantage because they know the internal layout of the place. They got tactical advantage. They can have weapons in there or whatever the case may be. So be cautious about entering dwellings. Hopefully no one encounters anything like this, but I just wanted to bring it to you because as wild as this sounds, this actually happened to a driver. It's your boy Tim. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.